There's something I never told my children, not because I was afraid to hurt them, but because I was afraid they'd say something polite back, and that would be worse than silence. My name is Dorothy. I'm 85 years old. I live alone in the house where 4 people used to live, then 3, then 2, and for the last 7 years, just me. The phone sits on the kitchen table next to my coffee cup. I drink my coffee and I look at it. Sometimes it rings, sometimes it doesn't. Today it didn't. Yesterday either. I am not going to complain about my kids. Michael lives in another state. He has a job, 2 kids of his own, a mortgage, a wife whose parents are also getting older. He calls on Sundays almost always, 5 minutes, sometimes 7, once a month a little longer if he is in a good mood. He always asks how I am doing. I always say fine. That is true and not true at the same time, and we both pretend not to notice the difference. Karen is closer about an hour drive. She came last October, brought groceries, stayed 2 hours. We had coffee. She talked about work. I listened. She's a good girl. Busy, tired, with the same dark circles under her eyes I remember from her college years. When she left, she said she would come back soon. That was 3 months ago. I did not call to remind her. I do not want to remind anyone that I exist. I am not sure exactly when that started in me, this wish not to remind, but it is there, and it is strong. I thought about it for a long time. Where does it come from, this refusal to ask? And I figured it out. My whole life I was afraid of one-word burden. I saw women like that. There was a neighbor in our old building. Evelyn, she called her children every day, complained about her health, about loneliness, about how long it had been since they visited. The children would arrive with guilty faces and leave with relieved ones. I watched that and thought, never. I will never be like that. Better to stay quiet. Better to say everything is fine. Better to be the kind of mother who is not a weight on anyone. And I became that mother. I became very good at being that mother. I rehearsed it so well that now I do not always know myself where the truth ends and the performance begins. But let me tell you how it used to be. I want you to understand where this emptiness comes from, because it does not arrive all at once. It comes the way evening comes. You do not notice the moment it got dark. When the kids were small, I was the center. Not because I wanted power, just because that is how life was arranged. They needed me physically, literally, with hands, with my body, with my voice. Michael, at 3 years old, had nightmares. He would cry out at night, and I would go to him and hold him, and he would go quiet on my shoulder in 2 minutes. Karen got sick often every fall, a sore throat. I knew by heart which medicine, what time, how she liked to be read to when she had a fever. My husband Robert worked long hours, came home exhausted. I was home. I was the place people came to when things were hard. That was my place in the world. I did not invent it. It simply was obvious as the kitchen table, obvious as the window facing the backyard. I did not know it could disappear. Nobody told me that children grow up and the place disappears, or maybe they did, and I did not hear it, because when your children are small, you cannot imagine it. Robert died 11 years ago. His heart fast, he did not suffer. That is a comfort, though, a strange one. After him, the house got quieter. The kids came more often at first, then less. They had their own lives, that is right. That is how it should be. I understood. I used to cook for 2 out of habit for a long time. Then I learned to cook for 1. That turned out to be harder than I expected, not technically, just a pot for 1 person. Looks different somehow. I cannot explain it. Just different. I remember one evening, December dark outside by 4:30. I was sitting right here in this chair, and I suddenly realized I could not remember the last time someone had held me. Not a handshake, not a brush in a hallway. Held me the way people hold you when they need you. I started trying to remember Karen had visited in September. We hugged hello and goodbye. That was 3 months ago. Before that, Michael, in the summer, he and his family came. For a long weekend, it was loud and good. So 3 months, maybe 4. I sat there counting, and what frightened me was not the number. It was that I was counting at all, that this had become something people count. Then there was that Tuesday, an ordinary Tuesday, middle of the week. I woke up, had breakfast read for a while, watched something on television, had dinner, went to bed, and just as I was falling asleep, I realized I had not spoken to a single living person all day. Not out loud, not even a text. Just a quiet day like so many others. I thought I will call Karen tomorrow. Then I thought maybe I should not. She is busy. I heard her last week. She is having trouble at work. Then I fell asleep. The next day I did not call. The day after that either. You know what I have learned about silence? It does not press down on you right away. It comes in the way water comes under a door. At first you do not notice. Then you notice, but think it is temporary. Then you get used to it. Then you cannot remember how it was otherwise. That is when it gets truly frightening. That is when I finally asked myself why. Not why the kids do not call, that is a separate question. But why I do not call them. Do I have nothing to say? Do I not need a living voice? Do I not want to hear how they are doing? I do, very much. So what is stopping me? And I understood. I'm not afraid they will not pick up. I'm afraid they will. That they will say, "Hi, Mom, everything is good? How are you?" And I will say I am fine too. And we will talk for 4 minutes about nothing that matters. And we will hang up, and I will be sitting here again, except now with the feeling that I called. And the emptiness is not any smaller. That is worse than silence, because silence is honest, that conversation is not. If you are watching this and something just tightened in your chest, subscribe, not for me, for yourself, so that tomorrow this video finds the person who needs it right now. Hit. Like that is the only thing I will ask you not to put off. I think about this often now, about how my children and I learn to talk to each other properly, politely without excess. I do not tell them I miss them, because I do not want to pressure them. They do not tell me they are busy, because they do not want to hurt me. We are both protecting each other from the truth, and the result is something thick and invisible standing between us, built entirely out of courtesy. I think it started before any of this, maybe when Michael was 18 and said for the first time, "Mom, I can handle it. Do not worry." I stepped back. I thought that was right, giving a child their independence, and it was right. But I stepped back a little further than I needed to, then a little further, then a little more. And they stepped back too, because they could see me stepping back, and they thought that is what I wanted. We all tried so hard not to get in each other's way, and now what separates us is exactly that trying. I remember a few years ago, Karen called and said she and her husband were thinking about having me come live with them. They have a big house. There is a room. She chose her words carefully. I could hear her trying not to hurt me. I said I was fine here, that I was used to it, that she should not worry. She agreed, and I heard the relief in her voice before she had time to hide it. That relief stayed with me, not as a wound, as something you try not to think about, but it sits somewhere inside and reminds you of itself sometimes. I do not blame her. I truly do not. Taking an elderly person into your home is hard. It is a different rhythm, different habits, constant responsibility. I am not even sure I would have wanted it, but here is what I understood after that call. She did not ask because she really wanted me to move in. She asked in order to have asked, so she could tell herself she offered. And I said no, not because I really wanted to stay. I said no so as not to be a burden. We both played our parts cleanly and went our separate ways satisfied, and the real conversation never happened. Here's what frightens me. Not that the kids are far away, not that they call rarely. What frightens me is that we have forgotten how to tell each other the truth. Not because the love is not there. The love is there. I have no doubt about that. But love without honesty is like a house without a foundation. Looks fine from outside, and inside something always creaks just slightly. There is something I understand at 85 that I did not understand at 40 or 60. I built my sense of self through them, through their need for me. While they needed their mother, I knew who I was. When that need left, it turned out I did not have a very clear answer to that question on my own. Not because I am a weak person, just that my generation lived that way. You were someone through other people, through a husband, through children, through family. Being yourself separately was something we did not quite learn. I am learning now at 85, which is probably funny. I started reading the books I always put aside. I signed up for a watercolor class. I paint terribly, but I love the process itself. I love that it is only mine needed, by no one, done for no one. Last week I sat at the table with a brush and realized I had not thought about the phone for 2 hours. I was just painting the sky blue and white. It came out crooked and I felt good. That was a small moment, but I kept it, because moments like that did not used to exist for me. I did not know how to just be myself without a role, without a function, without it being useful to anyone. But I will be honest with you. It helps. Yes, it really does help. And still, sometimes in the evening when it gets dark early and the house is quiet, I look at the phone and I wait. I do not know for what exactly. Maybe just a voice. Maybe just for someone to say, "Mom, how are you doing over there?" That is not weakness. I used to think it was weakness, that I needed to get past it to become completely independent, completely self-sufficient, to expect nothing from anyone. But that is not true. Waiting for the voice of someone you love is not weakness. It is just being human. The phone is sitting on the table. Today, I might call first. Not because something important happened, just because I want to hear a voice. And maybe that is what I should have learned a long time ago. You do not need permission to want things. So let me ask you something. Is there a person you have not called in a long time? Not because you did not have time, but because you kept putting it off, because it felt awkward, because there were 100 reasons. Are you certain that right now somewhere they are not sitting exactly like this looking at their phone? Call them today, not tomorrow, tonight before you go to sleep. One call weighs more than you think. And if this story reached you, subscribe and leave a like. More stories like this one come out here. Real ones, no glosses. Your subscription is what lets these voices reach the people who need them right now.